Welcome to the Rise Up Network. I am your host, James Carmody, and the Rise Up Network is committed to sharing those stories of servant leaders, those men and women that are out there in the community making a difference. I have someone who is a repeat offender, been on the show several times. I'm fortunate to call this person a personal friend. They have co-hosted the show, fantastic veteran, Marine, running a great organization right now, Project Recover, my good friend and servant leader, Derek Abbey. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, James. It's nice to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I
can't keep track of time nowadays with COVID and everything, but
time flies. And I have to admit, I have to fall on the sword a little bit. I was kind of sidestruck, baby Finn was born beginning of March. We brought him home and then it's like quarantine. What is this? And we had just moved our house. We didn't have an office or anything like that. So I was scrambling around the house for a week or two, trying to figure out the right spot, end up in the garage. So here we are, and was trying to figure out what's the right approach. And then, we finally relaunched Rise Up back at the beginning of the year. And here we are, and honored to have you back on with us today.
Well, it's an honor to join you. Always a pleasure.
So there's our network that is very familiar with you, very aware, and there's people that know about Project Recover, and there's some that don't. Give people just a backstory of Project Recover and the mission.
Yeah. So, the gist of our mission is we're searching for Americans missing in action from our previous wars. And the intention is to provide answers and return these missing service members to their loved ones. We serve Gold Star MIA families, and there's 82,000 or close to 82,000 Americans still missing in action.
82,000 still missing.
Yeah, wow. All the way back to World War II. And most people think about Vietnam when they think about missing in action, but the truth is that the majority of those that are still missing are from World War II and Korea. And so of that 82,000, about 72,000 from World War II, about 7,000 from Korea. And now, because of all the good work people have done, less than 1,600 from Vietnam. And so, wow. Yeah, we do everything from the initial research, combing the archives, interviewing veterans and witnesses, conducting these cases and going across the world to do search missions for those that are missing. Typically, we search for aircraft that are associated with missing, but not only aircraft. And then when we find those sites, document those sites appropriately. And then now we're doing recovery in partnership with the Department of Defense. We'll recover remains and transport those remains and artifacts back to labs in Hawaii or Nebraska. And then identification will take place and they'll be returned to their loved ones with full memorial and celebration because of how long they've been missing. And so that's what we do. We've had significant success. We've been around in some capacity close to 30 years. And I've been with the organization now for 17 years, starting as a member, ultimately becoming a board member of the nonprofit, and now the president and CEO of the organization.
And in such an important thing that you guys are doing, to bring back our fallen fellow Americans and bring closure to that family.
Yeah, it's incredible to witness, and you can't accurately put it into words. It's obvious the sacrifice that was made by those that were lost and died in service. But we as a collective nation make a promise to our service members that when they don the cloth of our nation and make an oath to the Constitution, we'll do everything that we can to bring them home to their families. And because of the context of war and circumstances associated with it, for 82,000, that promise has yet to be kept. And so we do what we can to keep our nation's promise to those service members and their families. And, that, as I mentioned, that sacrifice is very apparent, but now we see with these MIAs that there is a second wave of impact when they return. And it has this incredible impact, not only on the families themselves, but the community surrounding them and the nation. People come together, children are let out of schools to memorialize and celebrate, and this healing and coming together occurs. And we've had the pleasure of witnessing that, and it's absolutely incredible. And of course, that ultimately then that promise is kept, and kind of trust has grown across our nation. And we're in desperate need of it today, with all the divisiveness and everything that's going on out there. It's just incredible to witness and be a part of. And kind of once you do witness it, there's no turning back or turning away from the work. You see how important it is.
And Derek, what are some of the projects that you guys currently have in the hopper right now that you're working on?
Well, there's a number of them. We we actually have built a database now. So that database includes more than 500 cases associated with about 3,000 MIAs. And so we assess that information at least once a year, oftentimes more than that. And we'll prioritize about the top 10% and make decisions on where we're going to execute missions and what type of missions we're going to execute throughout the year. And those missions will include searching, and we'll partner with like the Scripps Institution of Oceanography in San Diego, where you're at, or the University of Delaware, or other partners to use their automated underwater vehicles to search the ocean floor, find sites, and then document those sites fully so that a recovery mission can take place. And so everything we working on covers that entire spectrum, from the historical research, combing the archives, although now the archives aren't open, so we have to do that via distance with our history team, doing these search missions, documenting those sites thoroughly, and then ultimately recovering those. So, over the years, we've located a number of sites associated with more than 170 missing Americans. 50 of them have been repatriated, and 70 of them have been designated buried at sea because they're part of a Navy vessel that will not be disturbed in Navy tradition. But then more than 85 of those are open cases waiting for recovery. And then we continue to find cases along the way. So that number continues to grow. It's almost like we can't keep up with the recoveries when we're finding these cases. But it's all good news, and hopefully more and more of these family members across our nation will have those answers that you mentioned and can work towards some sort of closure and healing.
Yeah. I mean, brother, that's just so important. I can't imagine, my dad served in the Navy, but he's still living today, a couple of bouts of cancer later, he's still kicking. But what it is like to have a family member, or loved one not come back. And then you have to deal with that unknowing, it's just kind of an open and it just there in your life.
Yeah. And it stays around over generations. So, every family that we've worked with now, 7-8 generations later, or 7-8 decades later, excuse me, there's still, those wounds are open, even with members that never met the person. There's shrines set up in their home. Typically there's stories that have been made up because they don't have all the answers. And we have the opportunity to give that piece of knowing what happened to their family and allow that healing to occur. And it has an impact all the way through those generations. It's incredible to witness. And, then we have these other waves of impact. Most of our members are military members, either active duty veterans, first responders in the community. And they feel, they're typically the ones that have been tasked with this as service members that serve. And so now they get to kind of participate in this mission, and it has this great impact on the military community as well as the civilian community. But we're definitely proud of that. Somebody like me that left the military, you hear about people struggling through transition. Well, I never had this drop off in purpose or anything like that, because I already knew where I was going to have an impact and continue to have an impact. And then of course we always invest in the next generation. We think it's important to share these stories and also show examples of leadership to youth or those that are coming of age, and what it takes to bring a team of all sorts of specialists together. And every piece of that puzzle is important. You can't accomplish the mission without that one piece that might fall out. You're not going to be successful. And then also sharing the stories of sacrifice that were made by those that we're looking for. And so giving back to that next generation, ensuring that these stories continue to be told is really important to us.
Yeah. And, you said you've been involved for 17 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I know.
What was it? What was it that first, attracted you, said, hey, this is something that I want to be a part of?
Yeah. Well, it started when I was still in the Marine Corps. I was in a fighter squadron, VMFA 121, and they had flown in every conflict since World War II. And I actually went to a World War II reunion in Indiana. And while I was there, the World War II veterans were telling me, you have to meet this guy, Pat Scannon. He's doing these missions to Palau and searching for Americans missing in action. And I thought, it was incredible. And so I had missed him that year. But the next year I helped them schedule their reunion in San Diego, and Pat came to San Diego, joined us, and then him and I met. We became friends, and he invited me into the organization. He had started our organization they were doing one mission a year to the South Pacific, to the nation of Palau, searching for Americans missing in action. And to me, it just seemed like the right thing to do. And so, I put my name in the hat and said, if I can ever be of assistance, please allow me to contribute. And I was doing a lot of deploying at the time, but ultimately an opportunity showed itself. I came back from a deployment, and then I unpacked my bags, packed my bags again, went to Palau, and was on my first mission and searching the jungles and the waters of Palau with a small group of volunteers, all self-funded. And on that mission, we located an MIA site, and that MIA site was a member of my squadron from World War II. So
wow,
yeah, there was no turning back after that. I still get goosebumps.
I'm like tearing up just thinking about
it.
Like, here you are, this young Marine, you just wearing your heart on your sleeve, you want to make a difference, and you're like, we uncover a site from the same squadron.
Yeah, and
from 60 years ago.
Yeah, there was no turning back. And I tell people when they become a member of our organization that they'll go through kind of 3 phases. The first phase is that, this seems like the right thing to do. I want to contribute. I have the capability to, and things like that. And they become a member, and that's the first phase. And then they go on their first or second mission or whenever it happens to be, and they participate in a discovery. We locate somebody that's missing. And that's when you move into the second phase, where this whole thing comes rushing home that this is real. This person or these people have been missing for 6, 7, 8 decades, however long it's been, and now we've found them. We've had success in our efforts. So that's the second phase. And then that third phase is when one of those MIAs are repatriated home, and they're memorialized, and the ceremonies take place in full military honors, whether it's Arlington National Cemetery or Small Town USA in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, wherever it happens to be. And you get to witness that and see the impact that this has on families, and that it's so deep and personal and impactful that it's life-changing. And it's, when you think about your personal legacy and impacts that you're having, and you kind of get to witness that in front of you, and then you kind of reach the pinnacle of what it means to be a Project Recover member. And I've seen people that when they witness that, it's just full on, they're committed to the mission. There's no turning back at that point. And that just drives them more. And it definitely drives me more. And it aligns with my personal mission statement in life to have a positive impact on as many people as possible throughout my lifetime. And I get to witness it. And it brings me incredible joy to witness the joy and impact and healing and all these things that happens on these community members and Gold Star MIA families.
Yeah. I mean, I can see kind of that, I guess, stages you go through and phases you go through, as you come in and you're excited, you want to help.
Yeah.
And then you actually discover your first one. You're like, oh, this is real. And then, being there and being like, this is now a privilege and a responsibility.
Yeah.
And a gift.
It's absolutely a gift. If you would have asked me 17 years ago, if I thought I'd be where I'm at now and have witnessed all the things that I've witnessed, and gift is a great word. It describes it very well. And I've been very blessed and gifted in this work. And and it's, I absolutely love it. And it's just the right thing to do. And it's our way of saying thank you to those that have given far more than I've ever sacrificed.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for doing the work. It matters. It's important. Want to use the majority of the rest of our time to talk about your pathway a little bit. We have a wide range in the Rise Up network, from older veterans and citizens to young folks just trying to figure out what's their own path, and I want to talk a little bit about, what was Derek Abbey's path, right? And so maybe and I know you've shared this several times.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to share it again.
Yeah.
But I also want you to share, like, where were some of those pivotal moments or those transformational times where you were, maybe you screwed up, but there was a mistake or a tough choice to make, and you dealt with it in a different way than you had in the past.
Yeah. So, I have to always go back to my youth. I grew up in and around Seattle, Washington for the most part. Lived with my mom. My mom and dad broke up when I was very young. My father was pretty much out of the picture, but my mom did everything she could to raise a rambunctious little boy. You know, she didn't have a high school diploma, so she was doing everything that she could to take care of me. And unfortunately, when I was 13 years old, she unexpectedly passed away from a brain aneurysm. So was there one day and then gone the next. And as you can imagine, as a 13-year-old, that kind of tears your rudder and sail away and turns your life upside down.
Parents in the picture at 13.
Yeah. So I ended up with my aunt and uncle after that, and spent some time with them, and kind of made my way through high school and things like that, but still had no clue what I was going to do with my future. But I was looking for an escape, and you know, I ran away to the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps looked like an escape to me, and that's what it was. You know, picking between the services, it looked like the harder services to me, and
right, tougher one to do.
Yeah, and I was looking for, you know, a rite of passage, you know, a challenge, and what I thought it meant to be a man, or a man coming of age and things like that. And so the Marine Corps seemed like that's what it could provide for me. And so I enlisted and became a communicator, and it was exactly what an 18-year-old without a rudder or sail needed, at least for me. Structure, some stability, a system that I could succeed in. You know, the outlines for success were placed right in front of you. And I did. And I excelled as a Marine, especially a young enlisted Marine. And that makes me think of actually, you know, one of those early setbacks. So I came in and, you know, did pretty well initially, got some quick promotions and things like that, some meritorious promotions. And I was a sergeant before I knew it, in a very, very short amount of time, and was very much kind of a golden boy within my unit. And when I reflect back on it now, I think I probably got promoted a little too fast. And I gained a lot of confidence early on, and I probably too much confidence. And so I was given some responsibility in charge of the site. We were doing the field exercise and all that stuff, and a pretty important site. And I quickly failed, and just was resting on my laurels. And and good thing I had some platoon sergeants and stuff that were mindful of that, and they quickly fired me.
All right, we need to take a step back.
Yeah, and I needed to be fired. But I tell you what, that's one of those early failures that I reflect on. I mean, that was almost 30 years ago now, and I reflect on that all the time, and it makes me think about complacence and not resting on your laurels, and with additional responsibility calls for more work and focus and all those different things. And so luckily, you know, it didn't just knock my entire career off the path. They recognized it quickly. They put me in my place, and you know, it wasn't held against me for a considerable amount of time, and I responded appropriately. And you know, from there, I ended up being selected for a commissioning program down the road, got sent to college, was commissioned a ground officer, but ended up in the aviation side of things, as you know. And
how did that happen?
Oh, that was all chance. So much of my life has been luck, and then taking advantage of opportunities in front of you. And so I was a young second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, and I was in Quantico, Virginia, where all Marines have to be for at least 6 months for the basic school. And one night, another second lieutenant came to my room and said, "Are you interested in flying at all?" And I said, "What? You know, what are you talking about?" He said, "Do you have any interest at all in flying?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I need to know if you have any interest at all in flying." I said, "Sure, I guess I'm interested." He said, "All right, tomorrow at 1800, you have to be in this building at this time." And my initial thought was, dang, I just gave up my Wednesday night. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right.
Well, it turns out it was the aviation aptitude exam. And I went in cold and took the exam and passed. And that's the first thing that you have to pass to end up going to flight school. They sent me to get my physical, pass my flight physical. And the Marine Corps said, "You're going to flight school." And initially I said, "I don't want to go to flight school." They said, "Well, it's not up to you. You're going to flight school. You passed
the
test and the physical, so good luck." And at that point, that's when I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do what I think is the best. And at the time, I thought the F-18 platform was the best. And I excelled in flight school as much as I hated it. And I got what I wanted, West Coast F-18s, and sent out there.
So ideal.
Yeah. And then, you know, while I was in flight school, 9/11 happened. And so by the time I finished, they accelerated me and two others through the program to join our units because they knew that the conflict in Iraq was going to start, and we were sent to Iraq. And so I broke 100 hours in the jet in over Kuwait, and then doing Operation Southern Watch missions. I was overhead Iraq when the war kicked off over there, and went back a few more times in the F-18 and did everything you could possibly want to do in the F-18 except for an actual air-to-air engagement, but all sorts of close air support, helping a lot of Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and others in dire situations get out of those situations. And yeah, and then I had another opportunity to transition. I became a plank holder or a original member with Marine Special Operations Command when the Marine Corps started their Special Operations component. Did that for a few years, got to work with some more incredible people, and then the really sexy job of running a schoolhouse as my last tour. But the Marine Corps sent me back to college, and I got an advanced degree, which all that stuff translated into kind of my post-Marine Corps work, which was initially working with military and higher education environment. And I got to work at San Diego State there and the University of San Diego, running the military veterans program, doing a lot of research related to that, paralleled that with getting a doctorate, and finished that in 2019. And when I was finished with college was when Project Recover said, hey, why don't we bring you over and have you help us run this organization? And that's how I got to where I'm at today.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a life, man.
Yeah. I've been incredibly lucky and blessed. And one of the things that I think that has driven me is when I find people that I think are incredible, I try and hang on to their coattails and learn as much as I can from them. And I've had a lot of people like that haven't, kicked me away when I've tried to hang on to those coattails. And when I see an opportunity show itself, I really try and take as much advantage of it as I can, especially if it aligns with my personal values and my personal mission in life.
Wow. If you were going to give yourself some advice along the way, looking back, in the past, what were some of the things that you would share or guide yourself with?
Well, man, that would be a long conversation.
Maybe one or two moments where you're like, all right, this is the appropriate approach.
Yeah. So, you were asking about setbacks, and I look at failure and setbacks now different than when I was younger. They were very detrimental to me in the moment when I was fired from that position that I told you about. I mean, I thought the world was ending and things like that. And,
you're probably having these thoughts like, oh my God, I'm such a numbskull. How did I do this? It's over.
Yeah. And of course, I would never recommend anybody to seek out failure. But nowadays, when I talk to people, I encourage them to be accepting of it, because that's where innovation comes from, and growth, incredible growth. And I did an exercise recently just with myself. I was reading a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, and it kind of went on to these failures and learning points. And I just sat down and I started listing all the setbacks and failures that I had just since I left the Marine Corps. And that list quickly grew, but none of them were showstoppers. And actually, some of them opened up opportunities that I didn't quite know were there. Sometimes those perceived failures or perceived setbacks really were moments when I wasn't ready to have some. So maybe I didn't get a position that I wanted and things like that. That has definitely happened. But then those opportunities showed themselves later on when I was more mature, better prepared, things like that, to take those on. And I was able to kind of learn from like, okay, I didn't get what I wanted in this moment. What can I do to kind of improve myself? And so that would be one of the things that I would really kind of give myself a younger Derek, really saying, your life isn't off the rails, just keep moving. And that's how I apply myself now is, I don't do so much linear goal setting. I do more directional goal setting. And the reason that I do that is because I have a foundation now of values and things that are really, really important to me. And I know I want to move in a certain direction, and I'm going to do things to build myself towards that. Where if it was linear and a setback happened, Well, now you're back at step one. But if it's directional, it's really just a pivot and a shift and a learning moment. The momentum and the trajectory are the same. I'm still moving in a direction that I want to do and I want to go. And I'm still having an impact on the things that I care about and stuff like that. So I think that would be one of the biggest things. And I actually do, when I talk to people that are, younger or starting their careers, graduating college, separated from the military, things like that. That's definitely one of the things that I talk about. And I also talk about it with my own staff. I want them to be innovative. I want them to come up with creative things creative ways of solving problems. And if they're so afraid of disappointing me or failing, or that I might, fire somebody or something for a small failure or something like that, then they're not going to be innovative. They're just going to go up to a certain level. Well, I want them to be at the highest level and come up with grand ideas. And if you want people to come up with grand ideas and do amazing things, they're going to make mistakes along the way while they figure it out. And so, as much as I try and forgive myself, I'm probably less forgiving of myself, just because of the type A personality and things like that. But I do try to be forgiving of those around me to allow them those opportunities to really create a meaningful impact on the things that they care about in an innovative way.
Yeah. It's so important. And I think you and I are similar in that regard. Like, you can do a number on yourself, but as a leader, it's like, all right, how do I give my team the space to go make mistakes, go mess it up? Like I'm telling my team, like, look, go make a mess and then come back with the questions and then make less of a mess next time.
That's the goal. Yeah. We're going to continue to improve. And, this is an organization with a growth mindset. And we started off as super, super grassroots. It was just a handful of folks that were paying their way to do one mission a year, combing the jungles and the waters of Palau. And the most technology we were using was basic scuba and a machete in the jungle. And then we had a GPS. Well, now we're working with some of the most advanced technologies in the world, with some of the most incredible scientists in the world. And it's just because we as an organization have been open to those ideas and being innovative and things like that. And we've gone from one mission a year in one country in the South Pacific to now multiple missions a year all over the world, expanding our mission and expanding the impact. And I think that's, I'm one piece of that, but everybody in the organization is part of this team and part of the advancement. And, that's also just making sure everybody's voice is valued from whatever corner they're speaking from, because they can come up with the incredible idea that you need to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Folks, if you're listening to this and watching this, not only is Project Recover a great organization that you're going to want to check out and get involved in, but check out Derek. Listen to this a couple of times. Derek is a fantastic leader and had, a tremendous life and has really put service at the forefront of it, and it's part of his personal mission statement, so listen to this again, watch this again, check it out. Derek, how can we support Project Recover? Where can we find you guys online, on social? Where do we need to be?
It's pretty easy. projectrecover.org is our website. And if you search Project Recover across any of the media platforms, you'll find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and things like that. And we do want to hear from people. Multiple reasons that we want to hear from people. If they're interested in playing a part in this mission, we're primarily a volunteer-based organization. So if you bring a skill set that can enhance our capabilities, we want it. And sometimes that skill set is availability, which is really important. And also we want to hear from MIA families and loved ones. Sometimes those chests in the attic have that one clue that we're looking for to find somebody that's missing, and that could be an incredible impact. And we're always looking for community partners that want to support our work, and all that can be done through our website. Anybody can contact us through our website. We're looking for ways of expanding our mission, and if somebody has the capability to help us do that, we want to talk to them.
Fantastic. Well, Derek Abbey, Project Recover, thank you so much for being in the Rise Up Network. Thank you for what you do for our great country and our brave men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And it's an honor to call you a friend, and thanks for being in the network. And folks, for those of you that are watching this and listening, go check out projectrecover.org. And remember, being a servant leader doesn't have to be this complicated thing. It can start with being a good neighbor, being a good employee, being a good family member or friend. Right now we're all going through this thing called a quarantine. Be a little kinder, be a little nicer, serve those people around you. That's how you can rise up.